The 2024 season is going to be an important one for Bret Bielema and the football team. So let's take a look at the schedule. Is it going to hurt or is it going to help? Locked on Illini. Let's go.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Illini. As always, thank you for making us your first listen every single day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Just want to thank you again. Yesterday's show got record numbers both on the audio side and on the YouTube side. So the community is growing. All I ask is follow me on IlliniCast. You can see it on the screen if you're watching on YouTube, or just send this to another Illini fan. Let's just continue to this momentum and get this whole thing growing. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more right now. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So today's episode, we're going to focus a little bit on football. Will Riley, just for the record, did confirm. He tweeted a picture of Ubben, so he's there. So we'll see how that goes. He's the 5-star recruit who I talked about visiting yesterday. So he is. We'll see what Brad Underwood and crew can do. But today we're going to talk a little bit about football. In particular, it's Tuesday, so we're going to have my friend Big Ten Ted on for the later segments. But I wanted to kind of start off talking about, there was a Twitter account called College Football Report, I believe it was. And they listed the toughest schedules in college football this upcoming season, and they had the Illini at number 15. And I'm not going to lie, I've glossed over the schedule before, and it didn't really seem particularly tough, especially considering what we're going to look like in the future. We get to avoid some of the big titans in the Big Ten that you usually associate having a tough Big Ten schedule with. So I figure we don't have to do too much of a deep dive. But I'd go ahead and kind of take a look at the schedule that we have this year and whether it's a game I think that's winnable or not. Now, again, keep in mind, Las Vegas has set the over-under for Illinois wins at 5.5. So the goal at the very minimum needs to be make a bowl game. And so the idea is, can we find 6 wins out of this schedule? And so we opened the season on August 29th. Keep in mind, it's a Thursday evening game against Eastern Illinois. And quite honestly, this has to be a victory. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it. This is no longer the Lovey era where you're kind of worried about, if one of the smaller schools in Illinois can come back and, steal a win from you. So 1-0, let's just start off there. The second week, it gets much tougher. We have the return visit from Kansas. If you recall, last year, Kansas put a pretty good spanking on us on TV. And we play them on September 7th, which is a Saturday, it's going to be another primetime game at 6 p.m. That game, more than likely, is going to be a loss. We follow that up with Central Michigan. Again, it's a MAC team, and I don't care if Central Michigan is a good MAC team. I don't know. But the bottom line is we are now at the point in our football program trajectory that we shouldn't be losing to MAC teams. And particularly, we should not be losing to them at home on homecoming weekend. So that should be another victory. September 20th, Friday night, we play Nebraska. And this TV is going to have national implications in the sense that it's going to be on Fox. The Big Ten on Fox is going to be a big thing now on Friday nights. And it seems like every year we play Nebraska at night. So this is just going to kind of continue that trend. Nebraska is kind of everyone's sleeper pick for how they're going to be playing next year. Obviously, they got the new quarterback in Dylan Raiola, and this is going to be Matt Rule's second year where he historically makes a huge jump with his football team. So we'll see how that goes. Nebraska will obviously be favored. Whether they come out on top, we'll see. We'll see what our offensive line looks like at that point. We'll see if Pat Bryant has solidified himself as number one, or if potential enrollee Zachary Franklin is here, and then our offense kind of takes a step up, because that Nebraska defense is tough, and we know it's going to be tough. After Nebraska, we're going to have Penn State on September 28th, which is a Saturday. The time is undisclosed, but on Twitter today, if you were kind of paying attention, this was rumored that it could be the whiteout game. And Penn State fans aren't very happy, understandably. Usually for a whiteout game, you want a premium opponent, someone who that whiteout can make an impact for. Penn State's going to probably beat Illinois regardless of the time of day, or regardless of, whether it's whiteout or not. So they weren't very happy that Illinois could be the team that they'll be playing on whiteout night. But if you have any Penn State fans as friends, just remind them that the last time Illinois went to Penn State and played in Beaver Stadium, the Illini came out on top. After that, we have what I consider probably the most important game on the season, and that's Purdue. Purdue obviously came into last year. We went to West Lafayette, and we got spanked by them, a team that we were, in my opinion, better than. Ryan Walters got a W over his mentor, Bret Bielema, and I think this is one that stung the most from last year. The fact that we weren't even competitive really made the season from at that point very disheartening. And I think the victory that Ryan Walters had on that Saturday was something he's been using to build positive momentum in the recruiting, in particular because Purdue and Illinois kind of recruit the same tier of guys. And the fact that, again, they put a shellacking on us on Ryan Walters' first season wasn't a good sign for us. The game after Purdue is going to be a fun one. It's going to be at home, where the national champions will come, Michigan. This is a game we're not going to win, but that's not important. It's going to be the Memorial Stadium rededication game, the 100th year anniversary. So that's a game I plan on being at. And by the way, if you plan on being at any of these games, let me know. My schedule is kind of open, so I'm kind of deciding which games I'm going to be able to attend this year. And Michigan is obviously one that I've targeted. After Michigan, well, this is, you can say, the gauntlet part of our schedule. We'll be traveling to Oregon. This will be our first taste of our new Western brethren entering the Big Ten. Oregon is considered not only a Big Ten title contender, but a national title contender. So I think it's safe to say that this is a back-to-back loss part of our schedule. That's why winning that Purdue game is probably going to be extra important, as is winning this next game, which is going to be against Minnesota on November 2nd, which is going to be Dad's Day. That's going to be a home game. And we know Bret has PJ Fleck's number, and so we need that trend to continue. Last year, John Paddock saved that streak, and this year, hopefully, we won't need any last-minute drive shenanigans to come out victorious. After Minnesota, we're going to have Michigan State. Now, Michigan State obviously has a brand new coach, so you tend to want to play teams with brand new coaches earlier in the season, as the players are kind of getting acclimated to the new coaching system and whatnot. But we're going to be playing them, in the last third of the season. So, and, honestly, Michigan State has been recruiting pretty well. Obviously, Andrew Dennis has decided to go there, former Illini, our top recruit from this past season. So that's going to be a tough game. Luckily, it's in Champaign. So I think that's more of a 50-50 flip game. The second to last game of the season is going to be at Piscataway. So we're going at Rutgers. And as much as I hate to say it, Rutgers was always one of those teams that we kind of counted on for the easy wins. I think what Greg Sciano has built there at this point is a machine, and it's a tough place to go and play. It's one thing if you're Michigan, it's one thing if you're Ohio State, but right now Rutgers and Illinois, we're probably on similar levels, and so Rutgers being at home, I'd say it's probably we're going to be underdogs in that game. Again, we better not be underdogs in. It's going to be the finality of the season, and that's going to be at Northwestern. Obviously, not at Ryan Field. This year, the game's going to be played at Wrigley Field, right in Chicago. So that should be fun. But I've been on record saying on Illini Cast, which is my other show, which, by the way, if you like more long form shows, follow me there as well. I think that David Braun's year last year was straight out of a Disney movie. And I can't fathom them being as good as they were last year and continuing it onto it this year. So I think this has got to be a victory. And really, now that I've gone through the schedule, I don't know about you guys, but I don't think that's a very tough schedule. I think there's a few 50-50 games in there, but outside that Michigan and Oregon stretch, I think it's quite feasible that we can get to 6 wins. And I don't know if maybe College Football Report factored in the fact that we're in the Big Ten. So just by that, definitely, just because of that, they elevated the difficulty of our schedule. But if you take a look at the following year's schedule, I think it's much tougher, and we'll do that in a future episode. But I want to hear what you think. Do you guys think we have a tough schedule? I'm very curious. Do you think we have what it takes to win 6 games? Because that's all that's going to matter. After this, we're going to be talking to my good friend Big Ten Ted as we go through some more anonymous quotes. When you're hiring for a small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else. Even those who aren't actively searching for a new job might be open for the perfect new role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions may apply. All right, folks, it's Tuesday, so that means it's Big Ten Ted Tuesday. Ted, how are we doing today?
Doing pretty good. It's always great to be with you here on these Tuesday shows. It's a great Tuesday here in Big Ten Country.
What do you got going on your YouTube channel right now?
Boy, I tell you what, it's, we've getting to that period. This seems like the calm before the storm. Spring ball has been over for about a month or so right now. Transfer portal is really starting to heat up. So you really got to dive deep into the brain for some of these topics and ideas a little bit. Talked about Ohio State, if this year's national championship or bust. Recently as well. Going to be talking some Nebraska stuff on the channel pretty soon, and maybe some buy or sell on some Big Ten programs coming up. So this is the time of year where everybody is going to go 10-2, right? In 2024, everybody is full of optimism. So it's always great to interact with all of that positivity this time of year.
It's funny you say that because you didn't see the first segment, but the first segment was literally me going through the Illinois schedule. And I don't know if you saw the report by College Football Report. They had Illinois as the 15th toughest schedule. Yep. And I went through game by game, and I'm like, this doesn't seem that tough at all. But like you said, early June, optimism is eternal. So who knows? But Ted, what are we doing today?
All right, so this is going to be a fun one. So Athlon Sports always comes up with their Big Ten anonymous coach quotes every year, and we're going to be playing a little bit of a game, so to speak, back and forth. So it sounds like, Sonny, you're going to be reading to me because I've been very busy over here, right? And surprisingly, I haven't really been able to read through a lot of these quotes. So you're going to read off some of these quotes that anonymous coaches around the Big Ten have said about all 18 programs. And I'm going to try to match what team they're talking about. So this should be pretty fun.
All right, let's go ahead and let's get started. All right. Blank has done a great job reworking the offensive talent. They're going to have some breakout wide receivers, and they have a really deep group of running backs.
So we got good wide receivers and a deep group of running backs.
That one's tough. Let me add another quote to it.
Yeah, give me another one. Give me another one.
It's all about the quarterback, redacted. They've tried to slow play it as much as possible, but he's clearly their best option. The most talented guy, the guy who makes the system work.
Is it my hometown Wisconsin Badgers?
It's not.
It is not. Is it Ohio State or Washington?
It's not.
Okay, what do we got? Okay, I got that one wrong. Bad at 0 for 3. All right.
That was Nebraska.
Nebraska. Okay. It crossed my mind when I was kind of thinking about it. But yeah,
it's tough because again, I'm picking these quotes at random as well.
Yep.
And so that's why I was so quick to offer you a second quote, because that first one could have been anybody in the Big Ten.
Sure. Yeah, you look at really Nebraska, that makes sense. You look at the running back room, it is deep. Dante Dowdell coming over from Oregon, Ramir Johnson's in there, Gabervin Jr. is in there as well. And you look at the receivers, that's another deep room, not maybe overly talented in terms of some game breakers on the outside, but and then the quarterback, of course, that kind of plugs in a little bit there as well. Wisconsin, right, and their quarterback, right, that kind of determines where they're going to go. So that's what I kind of thought with maybe Wisconsin, Will Howard at Ohio State, Will Rogers over there at Washington, and all those teams going to have some good skill positions as well.
All right, let's jump to the next one. This one will probably be a little easier. It's not national title or bust, but it certainly beat redacted or bust. And the expectation is to always win the league.
Oh, it's got to be Ohio State, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. That was a pretty easy one. I felt bad how difficult the last one was, so I want to give you an easier one.
That was literally the title of the commentary that I posted today. Is it national championship or bust for Ohio State? So maybe my brain was fresh on that one. Boy, are the expectations high in Columbus, considering what's happened in the game in late November, the last 3 years. Jim Harbaugh's out of town, and how they've loaded up with guys like Caleb Downs and Quinshon Judkins and Chip Kelly as the offensive coordinator. And I talked about this when I talked about Ohio State in my commentary specifically, it's a little bit complicated now because it's not as simple as it was. Hey, you beat Michigan, you win the Big Ten championship, you get into the 14 playoff. Now there's a scenario where they could lose to Michigan the 4th straight year. They could not make it to Indy, but yet they could still run the table and win a national championship. How complete do Buckeye fans feel if they lose to Michigan? They don't win the Big Ten, but yet they run the table of the national championship. But that's the era we kind of have cut up for ourselves now with the 12-team playoff.
Yeah, college football got a lot more complicated. Okay, the next team, redacted, might go down as one of the best interim head coaches in the history of the game. What he was able to do to keep that locker room committed and the culture going after redacted was really remarkable.
That's my guy, David Braun, and the Northwestern Wildcats.
Indeed it is.
Yeah. I love their story last season. But here's the thing when I look at Northwestern and really translating it over to this year. Last year, David was able to come into that locker room and he was able to really use motivation as a tactic the whole season long. Everybody from Dave Revson, from Big Ten Ted, to everybody right nationally, everybody said that you're going to go 1-11. Everybody says that you're going to go 2-10. And they were really feeding off of that motivation last season. Now, what is his coaching tactic? Now, all of a sudden, people look to this Northwestern team and say, okay, yeah, they're pretty solid. They're pretty good. That could be a bowl team once again. Now, if you're not catching people off guard, how good is this team going to be next season? I think there are some pieces coming back, and I think Northwestern is going to be a good depth team in the Big Ten. But what is Mike Wright, the transfer quarterback coming over from Vanderbilt, going to be? He's more of a runner. So that's a team that's kind of up in the air right now for 2024.
Yeah, Northwestern, for me, this upcoming year is a prove-it year. Last year, all the credit in the world. But I've referred to them earlier as well. It was like a Cinderella Disney season last year. And if they can do it again, I think I'll legitimately be more impressed. Let's move on to the next team. This is a staff that does more with less, which is why they were so good at the last place. That might be a clue. But I think there's a resistance from some people at redacted to go back to that redacted mentality.
That does more. Is this a coach that is a new coach, first year in the Big Ten? Because he mentioned doing it at the last place.
Correct. Yes.
Let's go. Jonathan Smith, Michigan State.
Ding, ding, ding. You're correct.
Yeah, what a developer of a program Jonathan Smith is, and what he was able to do at Oregon State. Possibly considered Jed Fish, considering he was taking Arizona from 1-11 over there as well. But program builder, that's what he is. I don't know how they're going to be in year one under Jonathan Smith. I think there's some good pieces. Aiden Childs is a really good quarterback. They've got a pretty good tandem in the backfield. Defense really took some hits up front, specifically on the defensive line, but it would not surprise me 2 or 3 years from now that the Spartans are maybe at that 8 or 9 win level.
And we'll tackle the rest of the Big Ten right after this. The NBA Finals have started, and I'm not going to lie, I've already jumped on plus 184 for Dallas Mavericks. I think Luka's got it this year. Just remember, it's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's number one sportsbook. All right, here we go. Next team. The biggest need is finding a replacement for Redacted, and it doesn't look like they had one guy really step up and do that in the spring.
Is this a quarterback?
The Redacted is a quarterback.
It is a quarterback. And they says nobody really stepped up in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, that's
I can give you another one.
Yeah, give me one more.
No problem. They have a lot of talented individual pieces on both sides of the ball because Redacted is an elite recruiter. But the knock on the program is that they're missing something to make the whole greater than the sum of the parts.
Oh boy, that's I feel like this should be obvious, but I'm really spacing on this right now. I'm going to say, can we go Maryland?
Correct. Nicely done.
Yep. Yeah. You look at the battle. I think I was kind of going through the quarterback battles during the spring. Rutgers, maybe, but then Wimsatt transferred out. Nathan was in there. MJ Morris, he seems like the guy. I'll watch that spring game. He seems like the guy that if he gets a little bit more seasoned, and he'll eventually get there. But yeah, Mike Loxley, he has done a great job recruiting DMV. Terp's got a good defense as well this year.
Next up, everything here is automatic except the offense. They're a premier development and depth program at how they scout, build, and develop on defense and special teams. It's just the offensive component.
I think this is fairly obvious. I think it's the Iowa Hawkeyes, baby.
You're exactly right. Yeah, that's probably the easiest one that we've had so far.
Yeah, got to get that offense. And all we need is 80th in the country. That's all we need. And, you know, if they can stay pretty stable, whether it's Cade or whether it's Brendan Sullivan at quarterback, this has got to be an offense that will improve. Just how much, TBD.
Mm-hmm. Next school, Redacted, is a really good hire. It shows that the school wants to be competitive and respectable in football. They're taking football seriously in NIL too.
I'm going to go with Washington and Jed Fish.
Nope.
So, and this is a new hire this year.
Correct. I'll bring you another one. I'll say another one. There's a lot of talk about the program for the first time since any of us can remember.
And this is a new hire this year. Okay. Indiana.
That's right. It's
Kurt Cignetti. He's really bringing a lot of attention to that program. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm excited. Indiana could maybe be that surprise team to maybe get to a bowl game this year.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing. I'm excited. I just want to see him prove it at this level. You know, That's all. I get it. Like, I read his stuff, and he seems like he's what Indiana needs. But I still want to see, because Indiana's one of the tougher jobs in the country.
Yep.
Next up, they're basically turning over the entire offense, and they need to find some receiver talent for whoever wins that starting job at QB.
When you talked about turning over the offense, Washington stuck out, but I feel like Will Rogers is pretty solidified at quarterback. Give me one more.
Sure. The defense will lead the way for them. That can help bridge the rebuild on offense. Will Redacted just rip it and blitz? That will be interesting to see.
So they feel good about the defense, and there's some questions at quarterback. Can I go with the Rutgers Scarlet Knights?
Not quite.
Okay.
I'll do one more. I think you might be able to get it after this.
Okay,
one.
gotcha.
This is going to be a massive transition, even though they kept on the interim from last year. They'll take a step back, but maybe not as far as you think.
So they kept in an interim coach
That's
from
kind of
last
tricky.
season?
That's kind of trickily phrased, if I'm going to be honest with you.
Okay. So we got good on defense, not great at quarterback, or maybe some questions at quarterback.
Yeah.
Questions at quarterback. Boy, that's a good. I'm blanking on this one. So just let me know.
It's the national champion Michigan Wolverines.
Michigan. Oh, geez. Okay. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Thank you.
That's okay.
Yeah,
I mean, we're up to 18 teams now, so sometimes you're thinking one way. And
I know. I should have a map of the United States just out in front of me right now. But the interim, I see what they're doing with the Sharon Moore there. Okay.
All right. Next up, we have where the program has really evolved is the front seven on defense. They're as talented and well coached as any of the redacted at these positions, and they can get after it. That is redacted's fingerprints on the program.
So they've got a really good defensive front. So it's got to be one of the better defensive fronts in the Big Ten. My first guess would be, considering what we've already guessed, my first guess would be Penn State.
No. Let me give you another one. Let's see. This is going to give it to you, but that's okay. Of the 4 schools coming into the league from the Pac-12, this is the most complete and dangerous.
Yeah, you look at the front seven of the Oregon Ducks, right?
Yep.
It's got to be them. Yeah. So when you look at Oregon, the transfer of Derek Harmon and just how they've recruited up front as well. And I've said it, you've said it, a million other people have said it. Oregon's best suited to come into the Big Ten and compete right away.
Next up, they turned the corner last season, and for the first time since All right, I gave that one up. That Greg Schiano came back. They're going to have the depth you need to be competitive in the league. So that's Rutgers.
I'm going to go with the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Yeah, that's Rutgers is that team that, maybe a couple of months ago when people said 8 wins, they kind of looked at you weird. Now I think it's becoming a little bit, not totally, but a little bit more mainstream now that we kind of get past the portal and people are starting to look at schedules. A lot of people are looking at Rutgers 7 or 8 wins right now.
Yeah, I talked about it. Illinois plays Rutgers second to last game of the season, and it's at Piscataway, and that's just going to be a tough place to play.
Right.
All right. Next up, we have watch these guys for a defensive breakout. They didn't fully understand the system redacted installed in year 1. They've brought in some really talented transfers, and a lot of their key guys are back. This is going to be the identity of their team.
It sounds to me like Wisconsin.
No.
It is not Wisconsin. Okay.
Team, there's 2 other options here, and I think we've already done one of them.
So this is a new team, right? Was it a first-year head coach last year?
Correct.
Okay. We said Nebraska already?
Exactly. Yeah. So I think there's only 3 teams, right, last year that had first year.
Purdue. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Those.
Yeah.
Purdue.
Just needed to talk through that one a little bit. Yeah. I like some of the pieces that the Boilermakers have. When you look at Dylan Thieneman back there, a freshman All-American, Kydron Jenkins, they kind of moved him to middle linebacker, Yanni Karloftis. There's some pieces, and then you look at offense, but they're focusing on defense here. But there's some pieces. Now, there's a difference between having pieces and having a full complete team. And that's, I think, what we're going to figure out. You know it as an Illinois fan better than anybody. Year 2 saw a huge jump when Ryan Walters was the defensive coordinator in Champaign. Will it happen in Purdue? That's the big question.
Next up, they're going to be really interesting to watch in the next few seasons. I think that Redacted lost his taste for the head coach position and what it takes these days, from the executive side of it to the new rules and the portal. Redacted wants to be there and wants to lean into the energy of the city for sure.
To me, this maybe outside of Iowa is the most obvious one. It's the UCLA Bruins.
You are correct. Yep.
I'm really curious of how Deshaun Foster, and I've always been saying this back to when he was hired. What does a Deshaun Foster head coach team look like right now? And I know there's a popular, hey, Deshaun's a running back coach. This isn't a serious program. I understand that's the take that everybody wants to give when he was hired. But look at his track record. Look at what he has done investing into recruiting. They've been able to bring in some 4-star commits. Nico's brother, Matt Emilieva, coming over in the 25 class. Like Eric Bieniemy as the OC. They've got some pieces. This is a UCLA team in a couple of years could maybe build themselves up a little bit.
Yeah, I'll be hand up one of the guys who ridiculed that Foster hire when it first happened. But I think a mutual friend of ours, Will, who's a big UCLA supporter, I had him on Big Ten show, and he kind of showed me like all the momentum that UCLA has had over the last couple months when it comes to recruiting, and it looks like whatever message he has been resonating with recruits. We have a couple more teams and not so much time, so let's try to figure this out. Okay, next team. Obviously, they're replacing Redacted. But the bigger question is if they can get both lines playing better. They can ease the new Redacted in if they're protecting him and if they're getting pushed on the defensive side. They didn't look anything like the old Redacted glory teams in the trenches the last few years.
Ooh, that last line brings me some doubt, but I feel like early with the quarterback and the lines, that tells me Washington. Jeez, I keep on guessing Washington and Wisconsin. I keep
so badly, but no. But you know what? It's on the same coast. I'll give you a little clue.
USC.
It's USC. Yep. They're talking about Caleb Williams.
Yeah, they're very similar teams. And when you look at the lines, the offensive and defensive line, some question marks there with the Huskies and the Trojans quarterbacks. Yeah, you can see why maybe that's a little bit similar.
Defensively, we expect them to be much improved. I'd say they're on a timeline similar to what Redacted did at Redacted. That's not the side of the ball to worry about here. That's let me give you another one.
Okay.
They need to put up points to get everybody on board with their new identity. It's that simple.
Okay, new identity. Okay, I'm going to get one of these right. Let's start with the W. I think this is Wisconsin.
You are correct.
Let's go. Yeah, the new identity one, that kind of put it over the edge. And you look at defense. It started out kind of rough last year, especially defending against the pass for the Badgers. But yeah, this is the year. We're going to figure out if this dramatic experiment moving from the power run game to maybe this dairy raid is certainly going to work out. We'll see. This year's a big year for Luke Fickell, Phil Longo, and the Badgers.
And just because I feel like I need to let you get Washington correct at some point, so I'm just going to go ahead and read one of their quotes and you can answer it. They're not going to make the playoff this year or next year, but he's a really smart pick for a rebuild.
Yeah, that would make sense as Washington, right? Of course, making the playoff and making the championship last year and then kind of taking a notch down. Like when I look at Washington, this is a team that might go 7-5. And I know Husky fans dropping from that 14-0. They went 14-1 after losing to Michigan. Dropping to that, it might be pretty jarring. But 7-5 is not terrible when you lose as much as they've lost.
Ted, thank you again for making this Tuesday wonderful here on Locked On Illini. You got anything fun coming up on your channel this week?
Yeah. When I look at what's coming up here, because I've kind of been going on vacation to Colorado, trying to plan things. So I do still have content coming out during that week. We're going to be talking about Nebraska, right? It's the time of year. We talked about being positive. It's the time of year when we all drink that red Kool-Aid, it seems, but maybe something inside me is feeling a little bit different. I'm going to be talking about Big Ten programs, buy, sell, where are our stocks for all 18 programs. So it's going to be a fun couple of weeks as we work towards the fall.
Thank you so much, Ted. As he said, he's going to be on vacation next week, so we'll skip a week, but I'm looking forward to having you on 2 weeks from now.
Appreciate it. Always good to be here on Tuesdays.
Thank you, Ted. That wraps up another episode of Locked On Illini. Again, thank you so much. We have doubled our subscriptions from last Friday. And, I'm so grateful for all of you for helping me out on that front. Just go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe button. If you're watching this on YouTube, find us on the podcast part. Just go ahead and, download the episodes there as well. It really helps the numbers out. And it really shows Locked On that they made the right decision in bringing in daily Illinois content. Keep in mind, I'm the only spot that you're going to find with daily Illinois content. But until tomorrow's episode, I'll see you guys later. ILL, love you guys.